the script and learning how to write a proper screenplay. Now, I learned that there's no real trick to this, but there are definitely a lot of opinions out there about it. It really comes down to getting the font size right and tweaking the margins. Now, the reason that it's important to format your screenplay properly, other than to have an industry standard, is that what you're going for is to get 1 page of text to equal 1 minute of runtime. So if you have a 90-page script, then you have a 90-minute movie. I learned most of what I know about writing screenplays just by browsing around online. Along with all the opinions out there about screenplay formatting, there's lots of people offering different screenplay writing software. I don't actually use any screenwriting software. I just use my word processing application, which I program to change the function keys using the style settings so that they accept the basic formats you need for a screenplay, like dialogue or character, that sort of thing. That stuff's all pretty technical, but I think if you want to learn about this sort of thing, you're going to find out what works best for you anyway. After all, the way you're writing your screenplay isn't going to be as important to your audience as what you're writing.
Whoa, what's all this?
I had a basic idea of Minushi's stories before I started, but it was that act of sitting down, brainstorming, coming up with the characters' motivations that really got me through it. It's not really enough to just have characters. You've got to have them doing something. What they're doing is your story. Why they're doing it is the motivation. So the first story we encounter in Minushi is the story of Trixie. Her motivation is finding her brother. Secondly, we've got Cal. Cal's motivation is escaping from Mr. Tinker. Those are two motivating factors that keeps the story moving along. This is a great formula for me. I think it worked out really well for an action-adventure because it had the characters constantly stuck between a rock and a hard place. When things start to die down on Trixie's end of things, they ramp up on Cal's. That way, the characters never have a chance to rest.
This is it, Cal. We're so close now.
If you call breaking into an army base close. Mr. Tinker.
Hello, children.
I also wanted the two main stories that we follow through Minushi to be full of secrets and mysteries, things that could lead to revelations later on. Everything from the peripheral enigma of the giants walking around to the mystery of whether Trixie's actually ever going to find her brother. At the center of these mysteries was Cal and his medallion. I'm a big fan of riddles, so when it came to Minushi's script and I noticed that there was an opening to have a riddle play a really important part in Cal's storyline, I was really excited.
It's something my mother used to say to me all the time when I was small. I'd forgotten all about it until I found it engraved on the back of her medallion.
How does it go?
Think a word to make a thing. Speak a word to give it will.
Now the riddle, or the rhyme, that is written on the back of Cal's medallion that plays a significant role in the story, was one of the last things I wrote. It was actually the last thing I wrote when I wrote Minushi. I came to it and I just sort of skipped past it and I kept coming back to it and kept coming back to it. I didn't get it the way I wanted it, and so I'd work on the script, I'd come back to the riddle. That's sort of an important lesson for me, is that I find it's always important to just write what you feel like writing when you do. Don't ever let anyone tell you that you should just write everything in sequence. If you've got a scene in mind, if you've got an idea about something, just write it. Work it in afterwards. It's great to have an outline, that's really helpful, but you don't have to start at the beginning and write until you get to the end. Write what you feel like writing when you feel like writing it. You can do draft after that, and it's really that drafting process where you're going to refine your story and when the final story is really going to come out and shine.
Got it. You're a genius, Cal.
One of the themes in Minushi is the idea of duality, and not just the classic idea of good and evil. Although that is definitely in Minushi, there's definitely that concept, but there were some other ideas of duality that I wanted to explore. What I was interested in, and something that kept resurfacing as I was writing Minushi, was the inversion of certain concepts. Things like innocence being corrupted by delinquency, which is something Trixie is faced with, or fear being overcome by courage, which is one of Cal's main challenges.
No!
Cal, don't!
Turn around! Go back! Turn around!
I found that figuring out a theme really helps you stay on focus, even if it is as broad a theme as good and evil.
You want this?
One of the fun parts about working on a project on your own, it's also probably the worst thing about making a movie on your own, is that you get to control all the elements of production. So you can take things like elements from your script and you can really work them into the production design. And so one of the things that I did was I hid a pretty well-known symbol, which some of you may have noticed, in Cal's medallion. If you take a look, it's actually the symbol of the yin and the yang, which is a symbol which represents complementary but opposing forces. That comes back to the idea of duality, and of course Trixie and Cal, and the emotional journey they take along their adventure.
So, ready to go?
Yeah.
A question I get asked an awful lot is, where do your ideas come from? Basically, I think it comes down to two things: inspiration and originality. Some people say there's no such thing as originality anymore. Minushi certainly isn't the first movie that's had giant robots in it, and it certainly won't be the last. But basically, when it comes to inspiration, then yeah, you're going to be influenced by everything around you, but I think it's what you bring to it. It's your own experience that you bring to that inspiration that makes it original.